Revelation 3:9, behold, I will make them of the synagogue of Satan, which say they are Jews and are not, but do lie. Behold, I will make them to come and worship before thy feet, and to know that I have loved thee. What is the synagogue of Satan? Is there a way we can know for sure from the scriptures what this means? I've heard a lot of different opinions, but how can we prove what it actually is? Well, I believe we can if we look a little more about what Jesus said to this church in Philadelphia. Look at verse 7. And to the angel of the church in Philadelphia write, these things saith he that is holy, he that is true, he that hath the key of David, he that openeth, and no man shutteth, and shutteth, and no man openeth. Jesus is saying something very specific here, and it means something. Let's look at a little more. Verse 8, I know thy works, behold, I have set before thee an open door, and no man can shut it, for thou hast a little strength, and hast kept my word, and hast not denied my name. Verse 12, him that overcometh will I make a pillar in the temple of my God, and he shall go no more out. And I will write upon him the name of my God and the name of the city of my God, which is New Jerusalem, which cometh down out of heaven from my God, and I will write upon him my new name. So what's he talking about here when he's talking about the key of David? He that openeth and no man shutteth, and shutteth and no man openeth. Talking about he has an open door. What all does this mean? I believe we can figure this out if we go back to a prophecy in Isaiah chapter 22. Notice what it says in verse 20. And it shall come to pass in that day that I will call my servant Eliakim the son of Hilkiah, and I will clothe him with thy robe and strengthen him with thy girdle, and I will commit thy government into his hand, and he shall be a father to the inhabitants of Jerusalem and to the house of Judah. And the key of the house of David will I lay upon his shoulder, so he shall open, and none shall shut, and he shall shut, and none shall open. It is very clear from this prophecy that the one who has the key is the one who has authority. The one who opens the door is the one who decides who goes in. The one who closes the door is the one who decides who does not come in. So it's showing an authority, and in Revelation we're seeing Jesus show that he has authority. Authority to the house of God. He decides who goes in. It's up to him because he has the key of David. He is the one seated on the throne of David. He is the root and the offspring of David. So Jesus is saying all these things for a very specific reason. He is identifying who he is and the authority that he has, and he's showing that he has opened the door wide. This is good news. He's opened the door to whosoever will. Look at what it says in Revelation 22, verse 14. Blessed are they that do his commandments, that they may have right to the tree of life, and may enter in through the gates into the city. For without are dogs, and sorcerers, and whoremongers, and murderers, and idolaters, and whosoever loveth and maketh a lie. I, Jesus, have sent mine angel to testify unto you of these things in the churches. I am the root and the offspring of David, and the bright and morning star. And the Spirit and the bride say, Come. And let him that heareth say, Come. And let him that is athirst come, and whosoever will, let him take of the water of life freely. Jesus has opened the door to the house of God to whosoever will, where the law excluded people from the house of God. Look at what it says in Ephesians 2 and verse 18. For through him we both have access by one Spirit unto the Father. Now therefore ye are no more strangers and foreigners, but fellow citizens with the saints and of the household of God, and are built upon the foundation of the apostles and prophets, Jesus Christ himself being the chief cornerstone, in whom all the building fitly framed together groweth unto an holy temple in the Lord, in whom ye also are builded together for an habitation of God through the Spirit. So we see that same thing about how we are a part of that house of God, of that temple of God. Just like Jesus said in Revelation 3, I'll make him a pillar in the temple of my God. And in Ephesians, it's showing that God has included Gentiles, those of us who were aliens from the commonwealth of Israel. He has made us both one. So what about the synagogue of Satan? Well, let's contrast that with Jesus, who has the key of David, and he has opened the door to the house of God for whosoever will, and contrast that with the Jews who did have control of the earthly temple, and they were excluding everyone from it. We see in Luke 11:52, Woe unto you, lawyers, for ye have taken away the key of knowledge. Ye enter not in yourselves, and them that were entering in ye hindered. Matthew 23:15. Woe unto you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites, for ye compass sea and land to make one proselyte. When he is made, ye make him twofold more the child of hell than yourselves. So the Jews who had control of the temple at that time, they weren't even going into the kingdom of God themselves, and they were preventing other people from going in. And Jesus took that authority from him, and he has authority to the house of God now. And so while many of those Jews rejected his authority, they rejected him as the Messiah, Jesus is telling this church, I'm going to make them of the synagogue of Satan, who say they are Jews and are not but do lie. I'm going to make them to come and worship before thy feet and to know that I have loved thee. While the Jews back in that first century were still excluding Gentiles from the temple, we see that a riot broke out when they just thought the Apostle Paul brought in a Gentile into the temple. We see that Jesus is saying, I'm going to make them to know that I love thee. They're going to come and they're going to worship before thy feet. While the Jews, even to this day, still act as though they are superior to everyone, act like they are the chosen people and have all this authority and inheritance coming to them, and they reject the Gentiles, and even in the first century, they hated the fact that Gentiles were being included in things. One of these days, God's going to show them that he has accepted us, because we are accepted in Jesus Christ, and we all have access to the house of God through the blood of Christ. And so why did he say they were Jews and are not? Well, the reality is, if Romans 2:28 says, for he is not a Jew, which is one outwardly, neither is that circumcision, which is outward in the flesh, but he is a Jew, which is one inwardly, and circumcision is that of the heart, in the spirit, and not in the letter, whose praise is not of men, but of God. That ethnic group of Jews that rejected Christ, the reality was they weren't Jews in the heart. Therefore, they weren't Jews at all in the sight of God. And so why the synagogue of Satan? Well, John 8:44, Jesus said, ye are of your father the devil, and the lust of your father ye will do. He was a murderer from the beginning, and abode not in the truth, because there is no truth in him. When he speaketh a lie, he speaketh of his own, for he is a liar and the father of it. It's very obvious why Jesus referred to them as the synagogue of Satan. Those synagogues, even to that day, were excluding Gentiles, and he was contrasting that with the true house of God in heaven, where Jesus, who has the key, he has opened the door wide for whosoever will. So you have to have blinders on to not see exactly who the synagogue of Satan is. It's very obvious. The more important thing about this passage is the fact that Jesus has authority to the house of God, and he's opened the door wide for whosoever will. You must get to God through Jesus Christ. So I hope this video is a help. Thank you so much for watching.